Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. My name's Laura.
Hi everyone, I'm Sammy. Really excited to be here today. Say hello in the chat if you're watching live. We're keeping an eye on all the comments.
Yes. So what I'm going to do is I am just going to introduce TikTok, who they are and what we do. And what we're going to do is a demo on Equatio and focus it on GCSE research and functional skills math. So just let me add my screen and we'll get going. Okay, so Sammy, can you see my screen okay? I always like to double check.
We're good to go.
Good to go. Okay, so welcome everybody. On the right hand side, as Sammy just said, there is a space for you to throw in questions. Please do ask questions and give any feedback that you have. It's lovely that you've joined us all today. My name is Laura and I'm joined today by Sammy, and we both work at Text Help. So today what we're going to do is a webinar on making math digital for functional skills and GCSE research. For any of you that don't know what Equatio is, it's a piece of software, and you'll see as we go through that it sits at the bottom of your screen when you're doing math. What it does, it allows you to create equations, formulas, and much more digitally. So before we get started, if you're with us live, feel free to answer these. These are questions rather than thoughts, but if you're watching it as a recording, these are thoughts to keep in mind as we go through the demo today. So how do you make your maths accessible to students with additional learning needs? What steps do you take to ensure all students can access the maths in your lessons? And how do you assess students' handwritten work outside the classroom? So Sammy, I can't see the questions at the minute as the slides have taken over the whole entire screen of mine. So if anybody has any feedback, Sammy, just read it aloud. If not, we will take these as thoughts and move on.
Yeah, let's take them as thoughts and move on, Laura.
No worries, great. So just think about these as we go through. We hope to answer and give you solutions to all three of these as we go through today's demo. But any feedback you have, if you are making maths accessible to your additional learning needs student, would be great to hear any feedback you have around this. So I'm just going to come out of the slides and go straight into the demo. So Equatio, you can use this in Microsoft or Google. Just because of the way that I work day to day, I am using this as a Chrome extension. So at the top of your screen, if you're in Google, you would open the Equatio toolbar with the Chrome extension. If you want to use it in Microsoft Word, you would open it from your desktop. It works exactly the same in both platforms. So I've opened it and it sits at the bottom of my screen. So this is Equatio here. And as you can see, if I hover across the toolbar, it tells me exactly what it can do or what it can offer me as a student or a teacher. So it just happened to land on handwriting recognition. It does exactly what it says on the tin. I can handwrite onto a touch screen and it will create the math digitally for me. So imagine students that are used to handwriting math all the time. You're not moving them straight away from handwritten math. They can still handwrite it, but it will be created digitally so that you can mark it correctly. They can email it to you as well. Speech input, dictate the math. Very easy to do and giving them an alternative way to give you the maths. We also have prediction, LaTeX, graph editor included. We have Equatio Mobile, which is mind blowing and that we're going to show you. But Sammy's going to go over most of this today. But what I'm just going to do is show you Screenshot Reader. So this is Screenshot Reader here. I'm hovering over it. So it looks like a box with an arrow in it. This one tool is so powerful. So on my screen at the minute is a PDF. And historically, a lot of teachers give out PDFs, which by nature are inaccessible. They're very hard to access. You can't read the text aloud. So they're not a great way to access information and learn maths. I'm also going to show you how I can access maths on a YouTube video and on a website using just this one feature, the Screenshot Reader. So I'm just going to click it and go up to the document and draw a box around the first equation.
1 1/4 plus 3/4 equals.
Okay, so what you have there is math read aloud. Simple. But for someone that is struggling with math, that needs to understand the language of math, or maybe with English as a second language, hearing math and seeing the math at the same time is just going to change their ability to do it. So PDFs, tick, box done. You're going to be able to read maths aloud from a PDF. A YouTube video, Corbett Maths. I have paused the video on the equation that I want read aloud. I'm going to go up and open the Equatio Chrome extension and use the screenshot reader.
X plus 5 equals 17.
Okay, so even if you can see it there, it's decent enough handwriting, I can say, but it is handwriting. But by me using the screenshot reader, I've been able to hear that aloud. Then I'm just on to a simple web page. So any math on a web page, I can hear this aloud as well. So I go down to the screenshot reader again, draw a box around the text and math that I want read aloud.
Find the value of 3/7 squared.
Okay, so just let me, the reason that I'm starting on screenshot reader, and I'll talk a wee bit about it at the end when I go back to my slides. The screen, so all of the tools at the bottom of this screen, students can use day to day and teachers can use day to day. Something that's really, really important though is Equatio can now be used in the maths exams. So students that are resitting their maths GCSE as an example, they're able to use the Equatio toolbar instead of a human reader. So it's JCQ approved. The screenshot reader that I have just shown you, so the one simple tool, the screenshot reader, is what they would use. So we have the ability to amend this toolbar that you see. They would only have access to the screenshot reader and they would do exactly what I've done there. They would draw a box around the math and have it read aloud. But I'll talk a wee bit more about that at the end, but that's why I started with that one feature, because that one feature will change the lives of some of your students having to resit a maths exam. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pass over to Sammy and she's going to show you the rest of the toolbar.
Thanks, Laura. People were straight in the chat. They were like, this can be used in exams. Like, yes, it can.
Yeah.
We'll go to the very end, like we said. But yeah, what we wanted to talk about today was about making that maths accessible to students with additional learning needs and accessing the maths in the lessons. And then I'm going to take you through as well that handwritten work as well, because I know it still exists because I still teach maths in a college. And tonight, 6 o'clock, if anyone wants to come along to GCSE maths. But what I'm thinking of is with this as well is if we've got, you know, students who are studying functional skills and they're going to study it online, what we want to be able to do is we want to be able to build their confidence and their familiarity with the tools so that it's not a surprise to them and so that they're not struggling on the day of the exam and all those sorts of things. And if we can build digital into their lessons, then you know they're going to have a much better, more enhanced learning experience. And what I was thinking of as well was thinking about how we can use worked examples. We know from Rosenshine's principles that it lightens that cognitive load. The Education Endowment Foundation say that worked examples by the teacher, by us as the expert, are easier for students to develop their understanding with and to form their own learning paths in those neural pathways. So we're going to show how we can do that with Equatio today as well. But I want to just hone in on that digital skill aspect. If you are offering entry-level essential digital skills in your college, entry-level is use a suitable application to enter, edit and format information, including text, numbers and graphics. So we're then threading this cross-curricular of that development of digital skills into all subjects. Entry-level essential digital skills students might be studying functional skills maths as well. And so we can build that connection and give a more rounded experience. Level 1 takes it a bit further, edit, format, layout information, including text, tables, graphs and charts for a range of purposes and audiences. So we've got a real strong emphasis on those cross-curricular needs for our students as well. So what I've got then is I have got a Google Doc. And I've got a Google Doc here and I've done some handwritten maths. Call me old school, but I've done that worked example for my students and I've done it in handwritten maths. And what I want to do is make that accessible for my students. I've just popped it in as an image. So just like Laura did, I'm going to go into Equatio with that extension. Same features in Microsoft Word, just forgive us just for ease for our cognitive load today, managing the platform that we're using to present with. It was just easy to stay in Chrome. So I'm just going to drag over that image. And it's going to read that maths aloud. I'm going to drag it again because it didn't quite get it. Here we go. Always, always when we're in a demo. There we go.
5 lines, line 1. 5f minus 4 equals 31, line 2.
I'm going to stop that now because I won't bore you with it all, but it's captured the working out and made that accessible for the students as well. What I've done underneath as well is that I have built this worksheet in Google Docs using the equation editor. I could have used Microsoft Equation Editor, but I've chosen Google's equation editor, and I've also done it just in text at the bottom as well. What I wanted to show you was how we can take this text and then turn it into our usual math speak language and just edit it for students and make it more familiar to them to build that familiarity as well with them. So if we take the PDF that Laura had earlier, we've got it here. Open the equation toolbar, and I'm going to screenshot read a question. I'm going to pick a different question.
1 1/2 plus 1.
I'm going to pause that there. What I can do, because this PDF's great, but where does the student put their work? How do they show me their methods? How do they show me how they tackle this problem? And how do I scaffold and give visual support to students who might need it as well? What I can do is I can click the 3 buttons here and I can click copy the LaTeX. You don't need to have complicated LaTeX skills. I certainly don't. But you just click that button to copy the LaTeX, and then you head to what we call MathSpace. Now, MathSpace is that whiteboard, that space where you do your annotations and scribble around the example. That might just be me. That's what MathSpace is. It's within your domain, so it's manageable. So if you're currently relying on free software that's web-based to do, collaborative whiteboarding or to assess student work on a whiteboard because it's easier for them to annotate and describe, this then brings that extra level of security that it's then managed within your domain. So I copied that LaTeX from that PDF. Just going to click it again, copy the LaTeX into my MathSpace, and I click the LaTeX button here. I'm just going to paste that in. It's done the LaTeX. I didn't do that, obviously, because I don't have the skills, but I can insert that question into there. Now, the student can now answer this question on here. If they've got an additional device, perhaps they've got a touch screen, they can start to annotate on there, or as a teacher, I can do some more modeling. So I can take that PDF and I can build it into a more visual environment, more where I would display my handwriting. If I wanted to, I could use the handwriting recognition. So I could just draw on my tablet. I've got a little drawing tablet here, and if I put my half in, now you can see it went really squishy, it went slightly off the page, but it still picked it up, and I can insert that into the document as well. So we can meet wherever the student is, we can meet them at their level of where things are for them. But if we go back to that question that we took from the PDF, I'm going to copy the LaTeX again, back into MathSpace, and I'm going to paste it in. In it goes. But what if I wanted to make the question harder? What if my students had really grasped the concept of halves and I wanted to just step up that learning and make it harder? I can just edit that math. So it's taken that PDF where I found that really good question, where I could really pick as a hinge point in the lesson, taken that, made it accessible, and now I can edit it, customize it, and create new questions for the students as well. So using our existing resources, and we can edit that maths, make new questions, and give students extra questions as well. If they're really getting it and we want to really push it, we can push it a bit more. This works just like any other slide sorter that you would have as well. You can duplicate, you can move them up, you can move them down. I'm just going to put another blank one in just for ease. But imagine we've got that question for the student and they need some additional support. They need to be able to answer this question and they need to be able to visualize that problem. What we can do is we can draw in some fractions. So you'll notice that in the PDF, it sort of stopped at the end here. If we come to this one, we've got a few extra options because we're in MathSpace now, this whiteboarding space. And you can draw shapes, obviously, as you'd expect, but you can draw in fractions. So if I draw in a fraction bar, we've also made this accessible so we can have this read aloud.
Reddish pink fraction bar, 4-segment with black border.
And it's made it accessible, but we can give it a label and we can say fraction bar quarters, the language that we're using. And we can have it read.
Reddish pink fraction bar. 4.
And we can have it read aloud again for students, making it accessible. But what else we can do is if the students are starting to think then, oh, it keeps saying the word fraction, and like Laura said, perhaps English is an additional language. They can connect, what does this mean in my language? Oh, it's fraction in English. When we come back to the equation editor down here, we can start to type in fraction, and it will put a fraction in for us. So the equation editor is built with student-friendly language in mind. Say we wanted to look at the area of a circle, a square, a rectangle, just start typing in area and they're all there for you. You can turn these off if you think predictions would be too much of a help for your students, but for my students, they really enjoy having these predictions on because they're like, I know it's something to do with area, and then it'll start to bring it in. And obviously with the introduction of formula sheets now, we want to be able to have, for them to have that confidence that they've got that reference point to go back to. What we can also do as well is perhaps we want to support and scaffold students with something else. So if we go into our math space and we put a smart shape in, so before I put a shape in, this time if I put a fraction, and if you're like me as a teacher, you don't ever draw circular fractions, they're always a bar. Well, you can draw circular ones and split them into different segments using Equatio to really visualize and bring that learning home for students. Big thing for me as well is when we are using Equatio, what we often do is we often need to use decimals to develop that understanding. So if I go back into the shapes and if I bring in coins, I can draw these coins in no problem. And what I can do as the teacher is I can create this for my student and give them their scaffolds ahead of time. So you'll notice this is just in a separate math space, and I might call this scaffold support. And this might be what I share with my students, then you can always use this. And this gives them those manipulatives that they sometimes need. So I put coins on that one, and in this one, I'm going to put on base 10s. So if I put some base 10 blocks, you've got 2D and 3D. Those are your 3Ds. I'm a 2D for rods. They are called base 10 blocks in here. I call them rods. You call them what you call them. But once we've got this, what we can do is we can lock things in place if we don't want them to move, but we can also infinitely clone them. And what that means is that when the student clicks on it to move it about, they get an infinite number of those to manipulate and to move around. So if I was going to create a scaffold support for my students, I might create that, and then I might put a tens frame in as well. And I can just drop that tens frame group in, and I can drag over those as well, and I can decide, do I want those as the colour, and I can change it. How do my students use their manipulatives? And again, I can infinitely clone those manipulatives for my students. And what that means is when they go in and they use this space, they can drag and drop those as they wish. Now, I would share that with my students using the share button in the top right hand corner, so the share button, and then make a copy for each person and expect a response. I can grade and mark their work in this. I can leave feedback in this. It's a web link that I share with them. They don't need a special app, and I can post it in Google Classroom if I want as well. They then get that link, and then if I just pop into this one and change to my student view, I'm just going to check, can you still see that screen, Laura?
Yes, I can.
Fab. So I'm going to pop in this time as the student, that web space that math space that we created with the scaffold support built in. What we can do is we can go to here, and you can see it's got the infinite cloner. As a student, I can start to manipulate and go, okay, 2, 3, 4, and then I'm going to add on a 10, and then I'm going to have 10 and 4 is 14. And all those tools that I just talked about are in the students' hands as well. So we can have them read aloud.
10 by 1.
Making it accessible, but they can move these around and they can use them as scaffolded support. So perhaps if they're experiencing dyscalculia and they want to have those manipulatives to hand, how do we get those manipulatives in their hands digitally as well? So I just thought it was really important to share that with you today. But we did promise that we would bring handwritten maths into the classroom. So imagine we have done that task that we started with, that algebra question, and we have started it and we want to bring it in digitally from the paper at home into the classroom. We want to be able to grade and mark it as a teacher. So if we click the mobile icon in the toolbar, I'm just going to bring my phone onto the screen here. I'm just going to bring it over a bit more because it's a bit stuck there. There we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to scan that QR code on my phone. You can see it's taking me to that web page, so I can go to it. I'm going to sign in with Google. Again, just for ease, because we were staying in Chrome today. And it's going to give me a list of active documents, so documents that I've currently got open, and you can see I've got quite a few. I'm just going to switch back to my other one because I'm logged in as my student. So I'm going to come back to this one, and I'm going to go to my active documents, and I'm going to go to this untitled document. That's that math space that I started in. No, I'll go to the scaffold support one. So we go to the scaffold support. I'm going to open up that math space here. I'm going to pop another page in. Oh, let me just move that there. There it is. I'm going to put another page in. So we've got a blank page, and I'm going to hit the camera. And what I've got here is I have the maths for one of the questions that we started with in algebra. I'm just going to take a photograph of that on my phone, and I'm just going to drag that around the maths that I want to include. And I click the green button, and I can save as math or save as an image. So I'm going to hit save as math. And it's picked it up, but it's missed a couple of bits. So I'm just going to pop that one in. And I'm going to hit that blue button on my phone, and that pops it in. And it's taken some of that handwritten math and it's popped it in on screen. I'm just going to take that off because as a student, I want to be able to check my work and check that I've got those answers correctly. And if you think about functional skills, when we're teaching about explicitly teaching that reverse check of work, or tell me how you know your calculation is correct questions, these are skills that we're really trying to hone in on. And also for GCSE, we are trying to get students to always check their work. It's still not picking it up. So I'm going to insert that into my document again, but I want to edit it. So I've inserted it as a student and I want to edit it in my document. So let me just get rid of my phone now. I'm just going to pop it on. Oh, there we go. And now it's picked it up and it's pulled it in perfectly. So 3 plus 2 equals 17, 3 equals 15, E equals 5. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to bring up that image again, and I'll insert it as an image. And I'll save that as an image on the document as well and pop that in. So you can see as a teacher, which would you rather mark and grade? Which would you rather mark and grade, this fuzzy handwritten one or this nice, neat one that's been handed in? But also as a student, I'm just going to delete that one off. Also as a student, I can go in and I can edit that maths. So if I had made a mistake in here, I could then go down and I could change that to 3 equals 30 and replace that maths. And I can make those changes. So it gives us an opportunity to explicitly check that handwritten work and explicitly check that working out and check that we are checking our work before it's handed into our teacher. And I don't know of any other way for me as a teacher that I've been able to get this really nailed for my students to share that skill with them. So we wanted to think about how we would make our maths accessible all the time and also bring that handwritten work outside the classroom into the classroom. Because the Education Endowment Foundation says when they looked at the research, explicitly teaching students that strategy to plan, monitor and evaluate their learning will develop those metacognitive skills and create more self-regulated learners. And I think Equatio Mobile, because they can take that handwritten work, scan it, send it in, web-based, simple login, no app required, so it works on any device. They can then evaluate their learning, check their working out, and check their work before they're handing it in. So I'm going to hand back over to Laura now.
Hi. That was absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much, Sammy. So me and Sammy have been friends for a long time, and it's only recently we got working together, and it's as well she knew me before today. We had planned today out, and I was meant to present the slides and then pass to Sammy to present, and I just continued to talk. So thanks for Sammy. You get used to working with me when you just have to wing it sometimes when you're working with me. So that was brilliant. What I'm going to do now is we're just going to really summarize what we've talked about. So at the beginning, we talked about opening thoughts. So I do hope that what we've talked about today, more so Sammy, has made you think about how you teach in a classroom, and are you reaching all your students? Are you giving them alternative ways to express what they're thinking? English as a second language, even something like that, as we've both mentioned, being able to hear the language of math. I hope this has generated some thoughts and will make you think about how you go forward in your math classroom. So as we said at the start, I couldn't actually see the questions, and then I did say that it could be used in an exam. If you want any further information or confirmation that it can be used in an exam, so reading or Equatio, apologies, Equatio can be used as a computer reader for maths. That screenshot reader that I focused on at the beginning. So they would sit in a room with their friends, 30 of them in a classroom if they wanted, with a PDF on the screen, earphones on, and the good thing about it is they can hear it back as much as they want. So this has only been passed, I think it was just before Christmas. So I was very used to read and write and how you can use read and write in an exam. And I know the struggles of getting a student to ask for help in an exam and getting invigilators in and the cost of invigilators. So I appreciate all of that. So now we're offering you a solution in your maths exam as well. So that's absolutely fabulous for your student and you as a college in regards to hopefully saving money as well. So if you want any information on that, just let me know. Me and Sammy are available for any questions, any demos, anything you want when it comes to maths. All our details are on the screen now. I will also send out the recording. So it's always good to have the recording. You can go back, stop and start, remind yourself how you use anything. We also have nice short videos if you want, if that would be easier for you to digest. Losing my voice now, not the ability to speak, to digest. We have short tutorials with other webinars like this. Anything that you think would help you, just give us a wee shout. So look, thank you very much. All our details are on the screen. It'd be lovely to hear from you. Sammy, I don't know if you want to give any parting words.
No, I just want to say thank you. This was our first one together, so it was really fun. But yeah, if you've got any questions about Equatio or how do I use it in my teaching or how does it work in a college or anything like that, I've been in colleges for nearly 10 years now, and like I say, teaching tonight. So Emma's saying looking forward to have a play. Have a play, Emma, and let us know how you find it. Anyone on here as well, if you want to find out any more information or be able to have a play yourself and see how would it work with your students, give us a shout.
Thank you so much, everyone, and hope to hear from you all soon.